And how do we sharpen our psychic abilities?
How do you shepherd your psychic abilities? Well, hell if I know. And the guides, I don't know if they'll want to say about this. Not about psychic ability. They're saying it's not about psychic abilities. It's about a demonstration of who you are in a higher way. That's interesting. It's accurate. Psychic separates you from it. They're saying psychic separates you from it. If it's an expression of you, if it's an expression of you, the ability is simply an aspect of you. The abilities are simply an aspect of you, calling into manifestation what they need to know themselves, calling into manifestation what they need to know themselves. So let me just explain how I work. Which was not. I don't know how I do what I do. I'm not a trained medium. There are very good people that are trained and have all of this esoteric knowledge, and some of them are my friends, fortunately, so they can support me when I have questions about what I'm doing or how I'm doing what I do. I hear. That's what I do. I'm primarily clairaudient. It's not like I hear a voice in the room going over there. That happens very, very, very rarely. It's mostly another voice that sort of seems to override my own thoughts. As if you can imagine, when I work as a channel, I'm often, when I'm way deep, which is not here, when I'm way deep, I'm channeling a lecture or channeling a book. I imagine initially I'm driving at the wheel of a car, and then I'm imagining turning the wheel over to the guides, and then I'm imagining crawling into the back seat. I crawl over the front seat to the back seat, and I'm like, I just read a magazine. That's how I do it, and I'm letting the other consciousness come forward. I'm allowing my personality self to recede. Now, my psychic abilities, I didn't know that I had them until they started to prove themselves out. And that was astonishing to me. The first I was doing hands-on energy work, I was doing healing and stuff, and then people started to show up just because they wanted to talk to the guides. And I went, okay, if you want to do that, we can do that. It was easier on me, because I have no patience for doing hands-on energy work. Other people are very gifted at that. It's not my thing. I was very good. So some woman came and she sat down opposite me and she asked about her father, and my eyes were closed, and all of a sudden she gasped, and I opened my eyes. I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "Oh my God, you look just like him." And I guess he had crossed, and it was not a good relationship, and she hadn't seen his face in years. And it really shook her up, and it shook me up too. And then I found out I could do it every time. I could step in at that level. And that's just an expression of clairsentience, which is clear feeling. So how do you develop your gifts? The first thing I always say to people is ask. Ask. But also, you've got to know why you want what you want. People sometimes say to me, I want to be a channel. Why the hell would you want this? I'm basically taking dictation for a living now. I left my career in academia. I sit in a chair with my eyes closed and I repeat the next phrase. And I do that for a 300-page manuscript that can't be altered. I can't go back and fix it because I said something wrong. Now, it's fascinating work in one level, but it's not, I loved teaching college. I did it very, very well for a very long time. And every day I showed up in my classroom, I was grateful. And grateful to be participatory to that experience of learning. And I feel, there's a part of me when I show up and do workshops that's still able to source parts of that self, because I still get to hold a room and, do what I do. But really, I'm stepping back and allowing this other thing to come forth. I'm much more present in the psychic work. But when I say you have to know why you want to do it, I think, the psychic stuff that I do is all there to support other people. My gifts developed, frankly, in a way that supported the work that I was beginning to do. I remember, though, and the other thing I think about this that's important is you have to realize that on a fundamental level you deserve this. It's a part of you. I started seeing lights around people, as I said, in my mid-20s. and I still see them, and I often don't know what the heck they are. They're these beautiful, violet lights sometimes, or, these firefly things that go off, these cobalt blue orbs, and they're beautiful things when they show up. But it wasn't anything that I sort of expected or planned on. It began to happen. But I was jealous of my friends who were psychics that had these very well-developed third eye screens. I call them, I say, what do you get on so-and-so? Oh, I'm seeing a guy in a brown jacket smoking a pipe. I thought, well, why can't I see that stuff? And funnily enough, this is probably 12 years ago or something, 10 years ago, maybe it wasn't that long ago. I decided one day, because I got inspired to open up a chat room on the internet to read in, because I wanted to see if I could hold a room of, say, 45 people at once and be that quick and not have any visual information and not have any names, just a screen name, to see what would happen. And all of the screen names were taken for all the psychics, and I ended up with this really shoddy name. It was like Second Sight, something like that. And I kept thinking, I don't want that name, because everybody's going to say, Second Sight, what do you see? And I kept thinking, I don't see, I hear. So I open up the room, and the first person shows up and says, Second Sight, what do you see? And I'm typing, I don't see, I hear, when all of a sudden I begin to see. And I had a ball. I sat in that silly room for months, maybe 2 months. I was telling people what they were wearing on the other side of the computer. I was describing their rooms, the cracks in the basement of the house they were about to buy. I had a ball. I think what happened was, in a funny way, I claimed it. Okay, I can do it. Here's the name. I'm stuck with it. But you see, in order for any of this stuff to happen, we have to know that we have the right to it. The guides say we can't claim what we can hold. And again, that's the whole idea of energetic accord and agreement. So think of it this way. If you go to a restaurant and you look at the menu, right? And you know what you have in your purse. So I can afford the steak, I can't afford the steak. It's up to you to choose. So the menu that you're holding is what you believe you're allowed at all times based on your value, what you hold. So if you believe truly that you have the right to order clairvoyance and that exists and can be had, you can hold it. But if you sort of think, well, maybe or not really. But the other thing is, if you're going to do this stuff, you've got to prepare to clear the stuff around it. Because, I feel in my case, I want to say that it's been earned, but none of this stuff came without some form of a price to it, and I don't mean that, or cost, or, for example, if I'm judging somebody, I can't read for them. If I'm frightened, I can't read.
There's a moral code.
It's not so much that there's a moral code, it's that it's cut off. If I've judged you, I've already decided who. I've known a lot of different kinds of psychics. We have different abilities. Some of them don't have a very well-developed spiritual life, and they have great gifts. In my case, my abilities came with the spiritual work. So perhaps that's just how I work. But I do know that if I'm judging somebody, or I'm frightened of them, or for them even, I'm not going to be a very effective read. It's one of the reasons I can't read well for myself. I have an investment in the outcome. My guides are helpful to me, Paul, on a daily basis in the moment. And they're very good at helping me not make choices based in fear. Because one of the things the guides teach is that the action of fear is to claim more fear. And every choice I make, because I'm afraid, tends to get me more of the same thing that I don't want. So on that level, I get counsel. But if I say, is this a good day to play the lottery? First of all, I don't think they care. And second of all, that's not the level of information that I'm accessing. And I'm not going to get it. Do you know what I mean? Maybe somebody else can work that way. I can't. And there are people that I know that are very gifted, and we trade with each other. because I can be neutral for them on their stuff in order to be an accurate read on a situation, and they can do the same for me.